This video brought to you by the Saharic Media Group. Be sure to read the description for useful links. Welcome back to another tutorial. I'm Luke from Saharic Media Group, and today I'm going to show you how to add custom language translations to your custom calls for 911 Operator. The first thing you'll want to do is find your game file where Steam holds your game. This is exactly like we did in the previous video, and if you haven't already watched that, I really recommend you do, because it will help you get to this stage, and you'll already know what folder I'm on about. Now, the call that I made in the previous tutorial, I uploaded to the Steam Workshop, so I'm going to go and find it within my Workshop folder, making sure that I'm going into 503560, because that is 911 Operator's Steam game code, and the folder I want is this one here. The very first thing you want to do now is to right-click, New Folder, and make a new folder calling it Lang, so L-A-N-G, short for language. Then we open up that folder and create a new text document. So I forgot to mention that the only software you need for this specific part of the mod is a text editor. I use Notepad++, but the default Notepad works as well. So we could do it in the default Notepad, but I'm going to be using Notepad++. Now we've come to naming this text document. What you're going to want to do is either search up on the internet or read in the description, but you want these two different code files. So you'll want to search for language codes, and I just opened the Wikipedia link, and you also want to search for ISO country codes. Again, I think I opened the Wikipedia link. What these are things like the US language, where the code is known as, by computers, it's known as EN-US. The EN in lowercase is the language code, which we found in the first tab there, and the US is the country code, which is in the second list. By doing this, you can search any country and language you want. So, for example, if I wanted German, I'd search Germany. German, because this is the language file, and you see that the language part is DE. Now we search Germany in the country file, and again it's DE, the capitals of course, so for Germany it would be lowercase de dash capital DE. The language I've actually got to do is French, so I'll just search up to prove that it's FRFR. So we've found the lowercase, and now we'll just search French. And there's a lot of Frenches. I didn't even mean to search French, I meant to search France, because this is the country code, of course. But again, that is FR, so it's just lowercase fr dash capital FR, which I'll now rename my text file. The game currently supports a variety of languages. You can see which ones in the settings menu in-game. You can also find a few extras that aren't native to the game, which can be found inside the workshop. If the game doesn't support your language, there's not much point making a translation for it. Bar Italian, because I know that a translation for the whole game for that is coming, so your mod will just be ready in advance. For example, my SO01 vending machine mod has a Dutch translation, but there isn't a Dutch translation for the game, so this is kind of pointless, because without a Dutch translation, the game won't try and pick up a Dutch translation for something else. So it automatically tries to pick up translations for the custom calls of the language that you've selected to play in. So it will only pick up the French translation if I select French. If I select German, it will still pick up the English unless I introduce a German translation. At this stage, we can actually just go ahead and close the two code sites, because we don't need them now that we know it's FRFR. If you're doing other languages, obviously you will need them, but at this stage you don't need them. The thing you do need for this mod, however, is an actual translation into the language you want to translate into. So if you open up your original script, and then it's everywhere that has Texton, is what you need translated. So at the top here, this item that's conversation is actually called title in the translation, and that will need translating. So will all of these ones within the scene, so the shooter, the victim, the caller, and every single texton of dialogue option and the AAR also needs translating. Otherwise, there'll still be some English in amongst your foreign language. It happens that I got a very kind person from the Steam Workshop called Auskors. I really don't know how to say his name, but he was kind enough to translate this mod into French for me, and that's what I'm going to be showing off in this tutorial. I'm just going to open up the translation file, and here you can see that I've copy and pasted all of the English in the sections that say Texton into this document, and Auskors has been kind enough to stick the French underneath and send it back to me. I don't know what those funny characters I just highlighted were, but they don't look like they're anything to be translated, so I'm going to ignore them. I don't know how they got there, but that doesn't matter. The French is all there, and it's all been translated. Everything that says Texton has been translated, because that's what we need in order to create a full translation for your mod. I'm just going to open up the file that we made a minute ago, which is now blank, and start writing. Now you start it with an open squiggly bracket, then just hit enter and open a set of quotation marks. Now you want to type in cool dot and then your cool ID, which is SO03 in my case. It's the ID at the top of your main script, and it's what you called all your files in the previous video, in the first part of the tutorial. So whatever you called it, type that in now, and then put dot. Now, going back to the script, your first line is odd because it's called title. It says conversation, and nowhere does it say title, but it's called title. So just put in title. Then close your quotation, stick in a colon, sorry, I nearly keep calling it comma, you want to stick in a colon, do space quotation marks, and then cut and paste the French translation. So I do that using Control X, and then I paste it using Control V. Closing my quotation, I then put a comma, enter. Now here we go. Quotation, cool dot, SO03 again. That's the same for every line of translation. And then you put dot, and now we're starting a new element. We're starting the scene. So it's dot, scene, dot, and then the ID of that element. So caller, victim, or shooter in this example. So for the caller, it's cool.so03.scene.caller. Close the quotation, stick a colon, space, quotation open, copy and paste the French, which is appelant or something. And then you paste it, close the quotation, comma, enter, and I'll just do that for the other two scenes before we get to the dialogue. Okay, well, apart from my cat-handed typing, that went reasonably well. So now we've done all of the scene section and moved on to the dialogue section. I said that weirdly. Now, be careful, it's not dialogue option, it's just dialogue. And again, it's going to be exactly the same format, so it's going to be cool.so03.dialogue. Now here there'll be lots of them, so I'm actually just going to copy that initial section. In fact, I'm going to add a dot before I do, because everything's going to have that for quite a while. I think it's about 16 lines or something we've got here. So everything's going to have that, so I'll copy it. Saves me a bit of time. Now the ID of my first one is number 1. So I'm just going to put 1, quote, colon, space, quotation, and then copy out this, the French, put a quotation, comma, enter. And then I'm going to do that for all of these dialogues. So like the scene, I'm just going to skip through all of those. A cool trick you can do is in Notepad++, this won't work in normal Notepad, but I think that you'll have two separate windows anyway, but you can drag you can drag down one of these, it doesn't matter which one, and just drop it, and then click Move to Other View, and now they're side by side, so this should make copying slightly quicker, although it means that my text is now too long, so this happens and you go slightly off and it goes funny. But it should make it slightly quicker again, because this is just a copy and paste exercise now. It is worth, when you're going down a big long list like this, just cutting and pasting, copying and pasting, whichever you're doing. Checking every now and again with your original script that your lines are still matching up. However, I can see here that they're not. Dang it! I goofed up here somewhere, didn't I? So I missed one. So yeah, that is exactly why it is worth checking, because the one I just pasted in is for the AAR. So I need to just go back and reverse that. As I say, make sure you check them and you'll avoid the problems that I've faced. Now I've worked out what's gone wrong, and it's not what I originally thought it was. It's because I have in my script this line here that is just the address. Now, because it's just 2 square brackets, address, 2 square brackets, as we covered in the last video, this means that the game auto-sets an address. In turn, that means that this piece of dialogue does not need to be translated, because the address is set specific to the town you're in. So if you're in a French town, you are set a French address. If you're an American town, an American address, a British town, a British address, and so on. So that doesn't need to be translated when it's only the address kind of code, as it were, on its own. Okay, so I don't know where the original audio for this was, but for some reason I've lost it for this section. Now I'm just deleting all of the French translation there that I don't need anymore, so that I can clearly see the ones I have remaining. And all that I've got remaining is the AAR, the after action reports. Now, like the dialogue and like the scene, we open with quotations, we put cool dot, then the ID SO03 dot, and then we use AAR, because that's like the scene, like the dialogue, that's the section it's in. And then you do dot followed by its ID again, which one of them was fail, as you can see I've just put in there, is cool.so03.aar.fail, and I believe the others were story A and story B. So I'm just going to put those last 2 in now. You can see my clumsy typing, but again it's just pasting in the French in exactly the same way as before. And then there's just one more, so finally, to reiterate, it's quotation, open quotation, cool.so03.aar. Then the ID, which in this case is story B, close quotation, colon, space, quotation, paste your French or whatever language, close quotation. And then because this is the last line, you don't need to put a comma in. But as you can see, I'm putting commas in some of the lines above, so just check that you have got commas in all the lines, bar the last one where you don't need it, because I actually forgot the comma in 2 of my higher up lines, so it's a good job I went and checked. Now to end, just hit enter. I like doing it twice, so I've got a blank line, but then you close it with a closing squiggly bracket, so the opposite of what you've got at the top, and hit Control S to save it, which for me wasn't working properly. It was going very funny. So I'll be back just as soon as I sorted this save. So we can launch up the game and go to settings. Now I'm just going to flick across to French, which should be here, and try and navigate this menu. Now I don't understand any of it. I'm going to pick Chicago. And what we're going to do is use the console to load in our conversation to prove that it's now in French when the French language has been selected from the menu. Okay, so now the game's loaded, I'm going to type in start call space and then my call ID, which is SO03, submit. So that's good, that's come up. And as you can see, the text on the right here is in French. It doesn't like that for some reason. I'm not quite sure what characters it's disliking, but the characters are the French translation, so I'm not sure what the issue is. But as you can see, the text that we have physically typed in a minute ago is now appearing in game, which was the main goal of this. So we have been successful. Slightly curious why there's a bunch of random question marks, but other than that, it works perfectly. And that's how you add a foreign translation to any custom call that you're creating within 911 Operator. For any further help, leave a comment either in the YouTube comments or the Steam group comments, add me as a Steam friend, or send me an email to soharicmediagroup@yahoo.com. If you disliked this video, feel free to hit the dislike button, that's what it's for. In contrast, if you liked it, hit the like. If you found it useful, please leave a comment somewhere telling me what was good, what wasn't so good, and so on, so that I can continue to make more tutorials that help you, the user. You may wish to follow me on Steam or subscribe on YouTube to see updates of either content or videos respectively. And while we're talking about videos, the next video coming out will show you how to add custom audio to a call from 911 Operator. So hopefully this one's been of help and that one will help you as well. Thank you for listening. I've been Luke from Soharic Media Group.